They say you don't really know a person until they show their true colors. I found that out the hardest way. I'd just gotten back from what was supposed to be a relaxing trip to Colorado. And there I was, standing on my own driveway with my bags listening to a total stranger tell me that my penthouse, my home, the one I'd owned for over 20 years was his now. My daughter had sold it. When I called her desperate, she just laughed. She actually laughed. "Guess you're homeless now, Mom," she said. But here's the thing Ashley didn't know. The one thing she couldn't have possibly known. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the top. Before I tell you what happened next, I'm curious. Where are you watching this from? What time is it where you are? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you're getting into this story, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might get it. And subscribe so you don't miss the rest. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Now, let's go back 3 weeks before everything just fell apart. I was sitting on the balcony of a little cabin in the Colorado mountains, wrapped up in a blanket watching the sun go down. The air was so crisp and clean, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could really breathe. No phone calls, no one needing anything, just me, a good book, and the wind blowing through the trees. I'm 72 years old, and I've spent most of my life working my tail off. I started out as a secretary in a law firm back in the 70s, worked my way up to office manager, then finally made paralegal. Every single step up was a fight. Every dollar I earned went into building a life I could be proud of. By the time I retired, I'd saved enough to buy my penthouse free and clear. No mortgage, no debt. It was mine. I lived there for 23 years of my life. I can tell you about every inch of that place. The way the sun would pour through the big windows in the living room every morning. The little reading spot I made for myself by the fireplace where I'd sit with my tea every night. The guest room where my daughter Ashley would stay, back when she still came to visit. That penthouse wasn't just a place to live. It was my proof that I'd made it. Proof that a woman who started with nothing could build something solid, something that lasts. But lately I'd been feeling so worn out, and not just physically, even though my knees aren't what they used to be. I was just mentally exhausted. My daughter had been calling more and more, and it was always some new drama. Her husband Kevin's business was failing. They were always stressed about money. Could I help them out? Just a lone mom, just until they're back on their feet. I'd helped before a few thousand here and there over the years, but it was never enough. There was always another emergency, another fire to put out. And Ashley, she'd changed. Or maybe I was just finally seeing her for who she really was. She wasn't the little girl bringing me dandelions from the yard anymore. She was a grown woman with her own family and her own problems. And it felt more and more like she saw me as a solution to her problems, not as her mother. That's why I took that Colorado trip. I needed to get away. I needed to clear my head and figure out how to set some boundaries with my own kid without destroying everything. Was left. The trip was supposed to be 2 weeks. 2 weeks to hike, see some small towns, and go antiquing. It was 2 weeks for me to remember who I was before I was just Mom or the lady with the nice penthouse. I remember sitting at that cabin just writing in my journal about my life, about my late husband Richard, who passed 15 years ago. I wrote about the career I built, about Ashley, and how proud I was when she graduated college, when she got married, and when she gave me my 2 beautiful grandkids. I wrote about my hopes for the future, like maybe traveling more, volunteering, or finally taking that art class I'd been thinking about. I felt peaceful there. I even felt hopeful. I had no clue that while I was writing about a fresh start, my daughter was erasing everything I'd ever built. I had no idea that the power of attorney I'd signed 2 years earlier just as a precaution when I had my gallbladder surgery, something my lawyer recommended, was being used against me at that very second. I spent my last day in Colorado at a local farmer's market buying little gifts for my grandkids, a hand-carved wooden toy for the youngest and a beaded bracelet for the older one. I remember thinking how excited they'd be to see their grandma, and how I'd tell them stories about the mountains, maybe even plan a trip to bring them back with me. The drive home was long, but it was nice. I listened to audiobooks, stopped at roadside diners, and took my time. I wasn't in any hurry. Why would I be? I was going home. To my home, my safe place, my reward for a lifetime of hard work. I pulled into my building's parking garage late in the afternoon 3 days ago now. The security gate opened up just like it always did. I parked in my spot number 47. I've had it for years. Everything seemed totally normal. I rolled my suitcase over to the elevator, already thinking about the first thing I was going to do when I got upstairs. Maybe take a long bath, order some takeout from that Thai place down the street, call Ashley, and tell her about the trip. I had no idea I'd never even make it past my own front door. The elevator ride up to the 15th floor felt exactly the same as it always did. The same soft hum, that same gentle jolt when it stopped. I stepped out into the hallway, already digging in my purse for my keys. Mrs. Reynolds from 15C was watering the plants in the hall like she does every Tuesday. "Welcome back, dear," she called out. "How was your trip?" "Wonderful," I said with a smile. "I'll tell you all about it later." Everything was normal. Everything was fine. I got to my door 15G, the corner unit with the best views in the whole building, and I slid my key into the lock. It wouldn't turn. I jiggled it a little, thinking maybe the lock was just stiff because I'd been gone for a while. That happens sometimes, but nothing. The key wouldn't even go in all the way. That's when I noticed it. The lock itself looked different, newer, shinier. My stomach did a little flip, but I pushed that feeling down. Maybe building maintenance had replaced the locks. They'd done that once years ago after a break-in on the 3rd floor. They must have just forgotten to give me the new key. I pressed the doorbell. Once, twice, 3 times. Through the frosted glass panel next to the door, I could see movement inside. Someone was home. Good. They could let me in and I could figure this all out. The door opened, but only part way. A chain lock was on. Some guy I'd never seen before was staring at me. He looked about 40, with a thick beard and these suspicious eyes. "Yes," he said. "Oh, hello," I said, trying to sound nice even though my head was spinning. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I think there's a mix-up with the locks. I live here. This is my penthouse." The man's eyebrows scrunched together. "What?" "I'm Catherine Williams. I live here. I've lived here for over 20 years. I held up my keys to show him. "See, I have my keys. I just got back from a trip and, lady, I don't know what you're talking about." He glanced back over his shoulder and a woman appeared behind him. His wife, I guessed. "Honey, there's someone at the door saying she lives here." The woman stepped forward. Her face looked both worried and annoyed. "What's going on?" "This is my home," I repeated, and I could hear my voice shaking now. "There must be some mistake. Did maintenance let you in? Are you doing repairs?" The man slowly shook his head. "We're not doing repairs. We own this place. We bought it 3 weeks ago, closed on it, moved in everything." The world felt like it was tilting sideways. That's impossible," I whispered. "You can't have bought it. It wasn't for sale. It's mine." The woman crossed her arms. "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but we have the deed. We went through a real estate agent, signed all the papers, did the whole closing. This is our home now. Who sold it to you?" The words came out sharper than I meant them to. "Who told you they could sell this place?" The man and woman looked at each other. "Your daughter," the man said finally. "Ashley Williams Sullivan. She handled the whole sale. Said you were moving into a care facility and wanted to sell everything off." My knees felt weak. I reached out and grabbed the doorframe to keep myself from falling. "My daughter?" I repeated, totally numb. "Yeah, nice lady. She had all the paperwork, power of attorney. Everything. Our lawyer checked it all out. It was all completely legal." I couldn't breathe. The hallway felt like it was closing in on me. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman asked, her voice a little softer now. "You look pale. Do you need to sit down?" I shook my head and took a step back. I need to make a phone call." "Look," the man said, his tone a little gentler. "I don't know what's going on, but we bought this place fair and square. We have kids starting in the school district next month. We sold our old house to afford this one. Whatever's going on between you and your daughter, you need to work it out with her, not with us." The door closed. I heard the deadbolt click shut. I just stood there in the hallway staring at the door that had been mine for 23 years. The door I painted that special shade of navy blue because it reminded me of the ocean. The door with the little scratch near the bottom where I dropped my keys that one time. Except it wasn't navy blue anymore. It was gray, a plain, boring gray. They'd even repainted my door. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts till I found Ashley's number. My thumb just hovered over it for a second. Part of me didn't want to call. Part of me wanted to believe this was all just some horrible misunderstanding that had a simple explanation. Maybe Ashley had just rented the place out while I was gone. Maybe she thought I was staying in Colorado longer. There had to be a reason. A good reason. But deep down, where a mom just knows things about her kids even when she doesn't want to, I knew the truth. I hit the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Mom, you're back!" Ashley's voice was so bright and happy, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just completely wrecked my life. "Ashley," my voice came out all scratchy, "why are strangers living in my penthouse?" Silence. And not the confused kind of silence. It was the silence of someone who's been caught and is trying to figure out what to say. "Ashley, answer me. Why did you sell my home?" I could hear her breathing on the other end. Then I heard that sigh. That big fake sigh I'd heard 1,000,000 times. The one she uses when she thinks I'm making things difficult. Mom? Okay, listen, I can explain. Then explain. I was still in the hallway, suitcase right next to me, just staring at a door that wasn't mine anymore. Mrs. Reynolds had already gone back inside her apartment, probably because she could feel the tension. Explain to me why there are strangers in my penthouse. You're being dramatic. Ashley said, her voice getting that impatient edge. It's not that big of a deal. Not a big deal. And I could feel myself getting furious. Ashley, this is my home. I lived here for over 20 years. You had no right to sell it. Actually, Mom, I did have the right. Remember that power of attorney you signed when you had your gallbladder surgery? Well, Kevin and I talked to a lawyer, and technically I could make money decisions for you if it was necessary. I couldn't wrap my head around it. That was for a medical emergency. That was so you could pay my hospital bills if something went wrong. It wasn't permission to sell my place behind my back. Well, our lawyer said it was legal. So, she trailed off like that settled it. Your lawyer? I repeated real slow. Ashley, whose lawyer did you talk to? Kevin's friend from college. He does real estate law. He looked over everything and said we were fine. Of course, Kevin's friend. Not some independent lawyer, not someone who might have actually explained what power of attorney really meant. Just someone who'd tell them exactly what they wanted to hear. Ashley, why would you do this? My voice cracked. Why would you sell my home and not even tell me? Another pause. Then she said quietly, almost defensively, we needed the money, Mom. You needed the money, I repeated. Yes, Kevin has debts, really bad ones. We were about to lose everything. The bank was threatening to take our house. We had creditors calling us every single day. What were we supposed to do? You were supposed to talk to me. The words came out way louder than I meant to, bouncing off the walls. You were supposed to call me and tell me what was going on. You were supposed to ask for help, not just steal from me. We're not stealing, Mom. God, you always make such a big deal out of everything. I could hear how annoyed she was getting. We got a fair price for the penthouse. The money's in an account. You'll get some of it once we take care of Kevin's debts. Some of it... My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Ashley, that was my home. That was my security. That was everything I worked my entire life to build. And now you'll have cash instead. Isn't that better? You're getting older, Mom. You don't need a big place like that anymore. We're doing you a favor. A favor. She seriously thought she was doing me a favor. So where exactly did you expect me to live when I got back from Colorado? I don't know. You've got options. You can rent someplace smaller. Maybe get one of those senior apartments with all the activities. You'd probably like that better anyway. More people your age to hang out with. I shut my eyes, trying to bottle up the rage that was about to explode. So you sold my home, took my money to pay off your husband's debts, and just figured I'd work out where to live on my own. Well, you're smart. You always figure things out. Her voice was so casual, so dismissive, like we were just talking about what to eat for dinner, not how she'd just destroyed my entire life. Look, Mom, I really don't have time for this right now. Kevin and I are dealing with a ton of stress. The last thing I need is you making this any harder. Making this harder. I felt like I was talking to a complete stranger. Ashley, do you even hear yourself right now? Do you get what you've done? What I've done is save my family from going broke. You're my mother. You're supposed to want to help your kids. Isn't that what parents are for? Help, yes, but you didn't ask for help. You stole from me. It's not stealing if it's legal, Mom. And it was. I have the paperwork to prove it. Legal doesn't mean it's right, Ashley. She huffed in frustration. You know what I'm not doing this with you right now. You're upset. I get it. But you'll see this was the best thing for everyone once you calm down and think about it rationally. Rationally, Ashley. I'm standing in front of my own house with nowhere to go. How is that rational? Stop being so dramatic. You're not homeless. You have money. You have options. Just go to a hotel for tonight and we'll talk about this later when you're not so emotional. When I'm not being so emotional, I repeated, my voice totally flat now. Yeah, look, I have to go. Kevin needs me. We'll talk soon, okay? Ashley, don't you dare hang up on me. We need to settle this right now. There's nothing to settle. It's done. The house is sold. The money's being used for what we needed it for. I'm sorry you're upset, but that's not changing anything. Goodbye, Mom. The line went dead. I just stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the silence. She'd hung up on me. My own daughter sold my home, took my life savings, and then hung up on me when I tried to talk to her about it. Mrs. Reynolds' door opened a crack. "Dear, are you all right?" I heard shouting. I turned to look at her, and I must have looked awful because her face immediately filled with concern. "I'm fine," I managed to say, though we both knew it was a lie. "Just a family thing." She nodded slowly. "If you need anything, thank you." I grabbed my suitcase handle. "I need to find a hotel." As I walked back to the elevator, pulling my suitcase behind me, I felt something just shift inside me. The shock was wearing off, and something colder and sharper was taking its place. Ashley thought this was over. She thought I'd cry a little, maybe get mad and then just get over it. Because what other choice did I have? But she'd made a huge mistake. She'd forgotten something really important about me. I didn't build my life by just accepting things I couldn't change. I built it by changing the things I refused to accept, and I was about to remind her of that. The hotel. This room was a joke compared to my penthouse. Boring beige walls, a cheap painting, a bed that was way too soft, and pillows that were totally flat. But it had a roof and a lock, and right now, that's all that mattered. I just sat on the edge of the bed, still in my driving clothes, just staring at the wall. My suitcase was still open on the floor, untouched. I couldn't make myself unpack. Unpacking meant I was accepting this was real, that I was really staying in a hotel because my own daughter sold my house from under me. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. "Mom, I know you're mad, but you have to understand we had no choice. Kevin's business went under and we were desperate. You would have done the same thing in our shoes." I deleted it. Didn't even reply. Another buzz. "Also, you're being really selfish. We're family. Family is supposed to help each other." Deleted. I turned off my phone and just threw it on the nightstand. I couldn't deal with her. Not right now. Not when my hands were still shaking. Not when I felt like the whole world had just crumbled under my feet. But sitting here feeling sorry for myself wasn't going to fix anything. I needed to know exactly what happened. I needed the whole story. I pulled my laptop out of my carry-on. If there's one good thing about being so organized my whole life, it's that I have digital copies of everything important. Property deeds, bank statements, legal papers, all in neat folders, all backed up to the cloud. I opened the property documents file and started reading the deed for my penthouse. I'd bought it outright back in 2002 for $370,000. For years, I'd saved every dime, skipped vacations, drove an old clunker. I made sacrifices for something that was mine, something that nobody could take from me. Or so I thought. Then I opened the power of attorney I'd signed 2 years ago. I remember that day perfectly. I was about to have gallbladder surgery, and my lawyer, David Morrison, suggested that I should pick someone to make medical and money decisions for me if I couldn't. "Just a standard precaution," he said. "Smart planning." I asked Ashley. She's my only kid. Who else was I going to trust? I read through the whole thing again, but with new eyes. The wording was clear. The power of attorney was for when I literally couldn't make decisions for myself. A medical emergency, getting senile, things where I actually needed someone to step in. It was never meant to give Ashley a blank check to sell my home while I was on vacation. I pulled up my email and searched for messages from Ashley from the last month. There had to be some kind of hint, something to show what she was planning. The first email I found was from 5 weeks ago. "Hey Mom, hope you're excited for your trip. We should grab lunch before you leave. I want to go over some paperwork with you." Paperwork. My stomach dropped. I sort of remembered that lunch. We met at a cafe near her place. Ashley seemed jumpy, kept checking her phone. She brought a folder and said something about updating my emergency contacts and making sure all my papers were up to date. I signed a few pages without really reading them. She's my daughter. I trusted her. What had I done? Signed, I kept digging through my emails. Then I saw it. 3 weeks ago when I was in Colorado, an email from some real estate company. A company I'd never even heard of. The subject was, "Congratulations on your sale." My hand was shaking as I opened it. My fingers were trembling. It said, "Dear Miss Williams, congrats on selling your place at 1847 Riverside. Drive Unit 15G. The closing set for next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Please look over the attached papers and let us know if you have any questions." There were attachments, PDFs of the sale contract. I downloaded them and started reading. The price was listed at $850,000. The penthouse had gone up in value a lot, especially after they fixed up the building 5 years ago. But the money wasn't coming to me. The wire instructions said it was all going to an account with Ashley and Kevin's names on it. My hands balled into fists. I read on. And there was my signature on the sales agreement, but it wasn't mine. It was close, but not quite right. Someone had copied my handwriting, but I could tell. The loop on the M in Catherine was just a little off. The T in Williams was too sharp. Ashley? Ashley forged my signature. This wasn't just her overstepping with the power of attorney. This was fraud, forgery. She didn't make a mistake. She didn't misunderstand anything. She faked my signature to sell my home behind my back. I leaned back in my chair. I felt sick. How long was she planning this? Was she thinking about it at that lunch? When she watched me sign those emergency contact forms, did she practice my signature at home trying to get it perfect? Did Kevin help her? Or was this all her? My mind started racing, going over the last few months looking for clues. All the signs I missed. Ashley calling more and more about money, the way she'd ask all these specific questions. About my finances, acting like she was just worried about my retirement. That time she offered to help organize my important papers and spent a whole afternoon taking pictures of documents in my office. She was gathering intel, building her case, getting ready to steal everything I had. I opened another folder on my laptop, bank statements. I had to see if there was anything else weird going on. What I found made my stomach drop. For the last 6 months, there were small withdrawals from my savings. Nothing big. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Small enough that I wouldn't notice, especially since I was so busy planning my trip. Ashley had access. She was my power of attorney. She'd been bleeding me dry for months. It all added up into almost $18,000. I put my head in my hands trying to breathe. This was so much worse than I ever imagined. This wasn't some last-minute desperate move. This was cold, calculated. She planned every step. My own daughter had been stealing from me for half a year, and I was just too blind to see it. I thought about Kevin and his gambling problem, what that couple at my door told me. I always knew he was bad with money, but I never thought it was this bad. Bad enough for them to do something like this. Or maybe it was all Ashley. Maybe Kevin was just a convenient excuse. I just didn't know anymore. I didn't even know my own daughter. My daughter anymore. Not the one who called me every Sunday just to talk. Not the girl who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart. Or the one who asked me to help pick her wedding dress. Where did that person go? When did she turn into someone who could do this to her own mom? I got up and walked to the window. The hotel just looked out over a parking lot. Gray concrete, yellow lines, cars coming and going. People living their normal lives while my life was falling apart. But standing there, even with all the hurt trying to swallow me whole, something else was building up inside me, something stronger than the pain. I was determined. Ashley thought she won. She thought she got away with it. She took my home, my money, my trust, and then she just hung up on me like I was nothing. But she made one huge mistake. She underestimated me. I spent 40 years working in law. I knew how the system works. I know what fraud looks like. I know how to build a case, and I know people who could help. I picked up my phone and turned it back on. I ignored the 3 new texts from Ashley. Instead, I scrolled down to a different name. David Morrison. My lawyer, my friend. Someone I've known for 30 years. It was late, almost 9 at night, but I called anyway. He answered on the second ring. "Catherine, is everything okay?" "David," I said, and my voice was steadier than I thought it would be. "I need your help. My daughter just stole everything from me and I need to get it back." David met me at his office the next morning. I hardly slept. My mind was just racing with everything I'd found out. But when I walked into that familiar building on 4th Street, the same office where I used to work as a paralegal years ago, I felt something I hadn't felt since I got back from Colorado. Hope. David was waiting in the lobby. He looked older than the last time I saw him. More gray hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But his handshake was still firm, and he looked serious. "Come on up," he said. "I've already cleared my morning for you." We rode the elevator up in silence. I was glad he didn't try to make small talk or give me a bunch of empty promises. David was always practical like that. We'd worked together long enough for him to know when to talk and when to just listen. His office looked exactly like I remembered. Bookshelves from floor to ceiling, all full of law books. A huge oak desk covered in neat piles of files, and the same old coffee maker in the corner that's been there since 1987. "Sit down," he said, pointing to the leather chair in front of his desk. "Tell me everything." So I did. I started with the vacation, with coming home to a stranger at my door. I told him about the call with Ashley, about the signatures she forged, and all the small withdrawals she'd been making from my account for months. I showed him the papers I'd printed from my laptop, the emails, the bank statements. David just listened, not saying a word, and his face got darker with every detail. When I was done, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. "Catherine, I'm so sorry this happened to you." "Mom, I don't need you to be sorry. I said, my voice low. I need to know if we can fix this. He leaned forward and spread the papers out on his desk. Let me be perfectly clear. What Ashley did wasn't just wrong, Catherine. It was illegal. We're talking multiple counts of fraud forgery, elder abuse, misusing a power of attorney. This isn't some gray area. What she did is criminal. Can I get my home back? That's the goal, he said. But I gotta be honest about what we're up against. That couple who bought your penthouse, they're innocent in all this too. They bought the property in good faith. To get the sale reversed, we have to prove the whole thing was a fraud from the get-go. I have proof, I said, pointing to the papers. The forged signature, her using the power of attorney when she shouldn't have. The fact that I was out of the country and had no clue about the sale. That's a good start. David pulled out a legal pad. He started taking notes. We'll need more, though. We have to document everything, a timeline of what happened. Yeah. Any communication with Ashley, proof you never wanted to sell, and people who can swear you're mentally competent. And that you weren't planning on moving into assisted living. Mrs. Reynolds, I said, my neighbor, she saw me the day I got back. She can testify that I had no idea what was going on. Good. Who else? I thought for a second. My doctor. I had my yearly checkup right before the trip. He can confirm I'm in perfect health. And there's, Bao Catherine Chen, a friend from my book club. I had lunch with her 2 days before I left for Colorado. I told her how excited I was to come back home. David wrote it all down. We'll need bank records showing the withdrawals you didn't authorize. We'll need the original power of attorney papers to show it was only for medical reasons. And we have to move fast. The longer that couple lives in your penthouse, the messier this gets. How fast can we move? I'll file for an emergency injunction first thing this afternoon. That should stop any more money from being transferred. And put the property's status in limbo. Then we'll push for a full hearing. He paused, looking at me over his reading glasses. Catherine, I need you to understand something. This is going to get ugly. Ashley is your daughter. Taking her to court, maybe even pressing criminal charges, that's going to destroy whatever relationship you two have left. She destroyed it when she forged my name and sold my home, I said, my voice steady. I gave her life. I raised her. I sacrificed for her. And she paid me back by stealing everything I ever worked for. Whatever relationship we had was over the second she decided I was worth less to her than money. David nodded slowly. All right then, let's talk strategy. We spent the next 2 hours going over every single detail. David made phone calls to colleagues, pulled up old cases, and started drafting paperwork. He contacted a handwriting expert who could analyze the forged signature. He reached out to a private investigator to dig into Kevin's financial history and gambling debts. If we can prove Kevin was in deep financial trouble and that Ashley knew it, that gives us a motive, David explained. It shows this wasn't some misunderstanding. It was planned theft. By noon, I felt like I could breathe again. Not because the problem was solved, but because I finally had a plan. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't just a victim. I was fighting back. One more thing, David said as I was getting my stuff to leave. Ashley's going to contact you probably soon. She's going to realize you're not just taking this lying down, and she's going to try and manipulate you. She might apologize. She might cry. She might try. She's trying to make you feel bad for suing your own daughter. I get it. Just don't talk to her. Don't answer her calls or texts. From now on, everything goes through me. Can you do that for me? I thought about all the times Ashley had played me over the years. The guilt trips, the emotional games. The way she'd twist everything around to make herself the victim. I fell for it every single time because I loved her. Because I wanted to believe my daughter was a good person who just messed up. But this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A whole series of choices she made over months, all to take advantage of the one person who loved her most. Yes, I said, I can do that. David walked me to the elevator. We're going to get your home back, Catherine. I promise. I just nodded. But as the elevator doors closed, something hit me. Getting my home back wasn't enough. It wasn't just about the penthouse or the money. This was about justice. It was about making sure Ashley finally understood that actions have consequences. That you can't just take what you want from people and get away with it. She thought I was weak, an easy target, just some old woman who'd roll over and accept whatever she decided was best for me. Well, she was about to find out how wrong she was. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ashley. Mom, seriously, you need to stop being so stubborn. Just accept that this is what's best for everyone and move on. You're embarrassing yourself. I smiled, a cold smile. The kind you get when you know something the other person doesn't. Ashley had no idea what was coming for her. But she was about to find out. 3 days later, I was sitting in a small conference room at David's office, surrounded by people I'd never met, but I desperately needed them. There was Stephen Brooks, the handwriting expert David had told me about. Next to him was Rebecca Parker, a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud. And across from me was David with a stack of folders that was getting taller by the hour. Let's start with the signature analysis, David said, nodding to Stephen. Stephen pulled out some kind of magnifying glass and put it over the sales documents. Mrs. Williams, I've looked at the signature on the sale document and samples of your real signature from a bunch of different documents over the years. There are major differences. He pointed to a screen where he'd put up huge images of the signatures, side by side. See here, your natural signature has a very unique flow to it. The G in Catherine curves back a little and connects to the A, but in the fake one, that connection is gone. Whoever signed this tried to copy your style, but they didn't get the muscle memory behind it. I leaned in, studying the pictures. He was right. I'd been signing my name the same way for 50 years. You don't even think about it. You just do it. But someone trying to copy it would have to think about every single stroke, and that shows. I can point to at least 8 clear differences, Stephen continued. The pressure points are all wrong. The speed of the writing is off. And here's the real giveaway. There's a little shake in the fake signature that suggests they were hesitating. Someone was nervous when they signed your name. Can you testify to this in court? David asked. Absolutely. I'll write up a full report with all the details. This signature is 100% not real. David got it. That's solid proof of forgery. Rebecca, what did you find out about their money situation? She turned her laptop to face us. Kevin Sullivan is in serious trouble. I'm talking over $200,000 in debt. He racked it all up in the last 18 months. Most of it's from gambling. My stomach just dropped. $200,000. He's got accounts at 3 different casinos in Atlantic City. Rebecca went on, plus a bunch of online gambling sites. He's also been borrowing from shady lenders, the kind that charge interest rates that'd make a loan shark blush. I found at least 5 different loans, all with rates over 20% a year. How did it get this bad? I had to ask. Rebecca glanced at David, then back at me. From what I can tell, he started small. Just regular casino trips. Nothing too crazy. But about 2 years ago, something changed. The bets got bigger. He started going all the time. It's a classic gambling addiction. He'd win a little, think he could win big, then lose it all and try to win it back. And Ashley knew. Oh, she knew everything. Rebecca clicked to another screen showing their bank statements. These are from their joint account. Look at these. Big cash withdrawals, always just under $10,000 to stay off the bank's radar. And Ashley was the one who made most of these withdrawals. I stared at the dates. Some of them were from over a year ago. Ashley had been hiding this for that long and never said a word to me, never even asked for help. She just let it spiral until they decided the only way out was to steal my home. And there's more, Rebecca said. Kevin's business, that consulting firm he bragged was doing so well, it's been losing money for 3 years straight. He's been faking his tax returns showing income that just isn't there. The IRS hasn't caught on yet, but they will. David leaned back in his chair trying to process it all. So we've got a clear motive. They were desperate, drowning in debt, and had a mother-in-law with plenty of money. Rebecca, did you find proof that they planned this all out? I'm still digging, but I found something. Rebecca pulled up an email. This is from 4 months ago. An email from Ashley to Kevin with the subject line, Mom's Properties. In it, she's talking about the market value of your penthouse and guessing how much they could get for it. 4 months ago. That was long before I even planned my trip to Colorado. She was looking up how to sell my home 4 months ago. I could barely speak. It gets worse, Rebecca said gently. I found text messages between Ashley and a real estate agent from 6 weeks ago. She was asking how you sell a property when the owner is out of town. The agent explained how sales with a power of attorney work 6 weeks ago, right before she invited me to that lunch where I signed all those papers. And the room suddenly felt like it was closing in on me. Every new piece of information was like a weight on my chest. Mrs. Williams. Are you all right? Stephen asked. You've gone white as a sheet. I'm fine. I lied. Please keep going. David gave me a worried look but nodded for Rebecca to continue. I also pulled Ashley's credit card statements, Rebecca said. In the weeks right before the sale, she bought a few things that show she was getting ready for this. She bought a notary stamp online. She also bought tracing paper and high-quality pens. She even bought a book on how to forge documents. I just closed my eyes. Every detail was another nail in the coffin. I had no doubts left. This wasn't some desperate move. It wasn't a last-minute thing. My own daughter had researched this, planned it all out, and pulled off a calculated robbery. The notary who witnessed the signature, David jumped in. Rebecca, did you find out anything about him? Yeah, his name's Kevin Foster. He's a mobile notary who advertises a quick, no-questions-asked service. I called him yesterday pretending I needed some papers notarized. He admitted off the record that he doesn't always check IDs carefully if the client seems trustworthy. I'd bet money Ashley paid him extra to just look the other way. Can we prove that? David asked. Not yet, but I'm working on it. If I can get his bank records and show a big payment from Ashley right around the time of the notarization, that would be the smoking gun. David turned to me. Catherine, I know this is hard to hear, but this is actually good news for our case. We're not dealing with some kind of misunderstanding. This is clear. Premeditated fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. I nodded slowly. Good news. It felt so wrong to call it that when every piece of proof felt like another betrayal. There's one more thing, Rebecca said, her voice getting softer. I looked into Ashley's personal account separate from the one she shares with Kevin. She's been moving money, small amounts, into an account in the Cayman Islands. It started about 2 weeks after the penthouse was sold. She's hiding assets, David said immediately. She knew this might catch up with her. She's trying to squirrel money away where it can't be touched. The Cayman Islands. My daughter actually opened offshore accounts. This wasn't just stealing. This was a serious financial crime. I stood up and walked to the window. The street below was busy with traffic, people going home from work, running errands, just living normal lives. I used to have a normal life. I used to worry about normal things like if I planted my tomatoes too early or if I needed to change the filter in my air conditioner. Now I'm standing in a lawyer's office, finding out that my only child spent months planning to rob me blind. Mrs. Williams, Rebecca's voice brought me back. I know this is a lot to take in. How much did they get? I asked, still staring out the window. From the sale of my penthouse, how much money did they actually get? $850,000, David said quietly. Minus closing costs and agent fees, probably around $800,000 net. Your $800,000, my life's work, my security, my home, all of it gone to feed Kevin's gambling addiction, and whatever else they blew it on. How much is left? Rebecca hesitated. Based on what I can see, maybe $200,000. The rest has been used to pay off debts, but not all of them. Kevin still owes a lot of people money. Some of it went to the offshore account, and there are large cash withdrawals I can't trace. Could be more gambling. Could be something else. $600,000 spent or hidden in just 3 weeks. I turned back to face them. So what happens now? David gathered his papers. Next we go to court. We file for the emergency injunction tomorrow. We present all of this evidence. We ask the judge to reverse the sale, freeze all of their assets, and on Ashley and Kevin's accounts, and start a criminal case for fraud and elder abuse. Will it work? With evidence like this? Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll win. It's not a question of if, it's when, and how much of a mess Ashley and Kevin make for themselves by trying to fight it. I sank back into my chair, just feeling drained. I was exhausted, but my head was also strangely clear. This investigation gave me something I really needed, not just the proof, but an answer. I finally understood that this wasn't on me. It wasn't something I did wrong or some sign I missed. This was all on Ashley and Kevin and the awful, illegal choices they made. And now they were finally going to have to face what they did. Thank you, I said to everyone there. All of you for helping me see the truth. Stephen started packing up his gear. Happy to help, Mrs. Williams. Nobody should have to deal with what you're dealing with. As everyone else filed out, David stayed back. Catherine, we need to talk about something else. When we get to court, Ashley is going to try and play the victim. She'll claim she was just trying to help, that Kevin pushed her into it, that she didn't know what she was doing. I just said, let her try. We've got the emails, the texts, proof of their planning. A jury will see right through that. They will, David agreed. But you need to be ready. She's your daughter. Seeing her in court, watching her try to excuse what she did, it's going to hurt. It already hurts, I said quietly. Every day since I got back, it's hurt. But you know what hurts even more? Thinking about her getting away with it. Thinking that other people might believe it's okay to treat their parents like this. No, she made her choice. Now she has to live with it. David nodded, satisfied. All right then, the court date is set for Monday, 3 days from now. Get some rest this weekend. You're going to need your strength. As I left the office and walked out into the afternoon sun, I felt different, somehow lighter. The investigation showed me how bad the betrayal really was, yes. But it also proved I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. What they did to me was flat out wrong, and I had every right to fight back. Ashley was counting on me being too hurt, too confused, too beaten down to do a thing. She counted wrong. I didn't tell David I was going to see Ashley. He would have tried to stop me. Told me that all communication had to go through him, warned me I could say something to hurt our case. And you know what? He would have been right. But this wasn't just about the case, not really. This was about looking my own daughter in the eye and making her understand that I knew every single thing she'd done. I drove to her house on Saturday afternoon. It was a normal 2-story house in the suburbs, the kind of place that just screams middle-class family. A neat lawn, a 2-car garage, a basketball hoop in the driveway. From the outside, you'd never know the people inside had just committed major fraud. I sat in my rental car for a second, just trying to get my nerve up. Through the living room window, I could see someone moving. Ashley was home. Good. I walked up the path, rang the doorbell, and waited. I heard footsteps inside. The door opened. Ashley was standing there in yoga pants and a baggy sweater, her hair thrown up in a messy ponytail. The second she saw me, her face flipped from curious to completely annoyed in a heartbeat. "Mom, what are you doing here? We need to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea right now. You're obviously still mad. And I really can't deal with more drama." I stepped forward, and the look on my face must have told her I wasn't leaving. She backed away, and I walked right in without an invite. The house was exactly how I remembered it. Same beige carpet, same furniture we picked out together 5 years ago when they first moved in. Family photos on the walls, even a few of me with the grandkids. I wondered if she felt any shame looking at those pictures. After everything she'd done, "Ashley, we need to have a talk, a real one. Not through texts or angry phone calls, face to face." She crossed her arms, totally on the defensive. "Fine, say what you came to say." "Where's Kevin?" "Upstairs, and he's staying there. This is between you and me." "No," I said quietly. "He's part of this too. Get him down here." "Mom, I'm not going to call him down. Ashley, now." Something in my voice made her freeze. Maybe she heard the steel in it. Maybe she realized I wasn't the same woman who'd left for Colorado 4 weeks ago. Whatever it was, she turned and called up the stairs. "Kevin, can you come down here?" Heavy footsteps came down the stairs. Then Kevin showed up looking nervous. He's a big man, tall and broad-shouldered. But right then he looked small and cornered. "Mrs. Williams," he said, trying to smile, but it wasn't real. "Good to see you." "Is it," I asked, "is it really good to see the woman whose home you stole?" The smile dropped from his face. "Now wait just a minute. We didn't steal anything. Everything we did was legal." "Legal," I repeated. "You keep using that word. You know what else is legal, Kevin? Handwriting experts, private investigators, court orders. And I've hired all 3. Ashley's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I know everything." I moved further into the living room, and they both backed up a little, like I was dangerous. Maybe I was. "I know about the forged signature on the sales documents. I know about the months of unauthorized withdrawals from my bank account. I know about Kevin's gambling debts." Kevin's jaw tightened. "My finances are none of your business. They became my business when you convinced my daughter to steal from me to pay them off." "We didn't steal," Ashley cut in, her voice rising. "We used the legal power of attorney. You signed it yourself." "For medical emergencies," I said, my voice steady and cold. "Not for you to sell my home while I was on vacation. Not for you to forge my signature on sales papers. And not for you to take everything I worked for just to clean up your husband's mess." Ashley's hands were shaking now. "You don't understand. We were desperate. The bank was going to take our house. We had people calling at all hours demanding money. We didn't have a choice." "You had a choice," I said, taking a step closer to her. "You could have told me the truth. You could have asked for help. You could have filed for bankruptcy. You had a dozen different choices, and you chose to commit fraud." "It's not fraud," Kevin said. But his voice wasn't convincing. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. This man who I'd welcomed into my family. Who I'd given money to over the years when Ashley said he was between jobs. Who I'd trusted him because my daughter loved him. $200,000 in gambling debts, I said. 3 different casinos, online betting sites. Private lenders charging 20% interest. Should I keep going? His face turned beet red. Who told you that? I hired a private investigator. She's damn good at her job. She found all of it. The debts, the failed business, the faked tax documents. And my favorite part, the offshore account Ashley opened 2 weeks after selling my home. Ashley gasped. You had us investigated. What did you think I was going to do? Just accept that. You stole from me. Just move on and find a new place to live while you spent my money. I shook my head. You forgot. Who raised you, Ashley? You forgot I spent 40 years working in law. Did you really think I wouldn't fight back? She slumped onto the couch, her face in her hands. This is insane. You're supposed to be my mother. You're supposed to support me. I was your mother. I raised you. I sacrificed for you. I worked 2 jobs to pay for your college. I helped you with the down payment on this house. I babysat your kids so you could build your career. And you repaid me by forging my signature and selling my home. We were going to give you some of the money, Ashley said weakly. Once we got the debts under control. Some of the money, I repeated. How generous. Tell me, Ashley, how much of my $800,000 is left? Silence. Neither of them said a thing. I'll tell you how much. About $200,000. You blew through or hid $600,000 in 3 weeks. $600,000 that wasn't yours. Kevin started moving toward the door, like he was thinking about making a run for it. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, I said, because Monday morning, I'm going to court. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to freeze all your accounts and reverse the sale of my penthouse. I'm also pressing charges for fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and misuse of power of attorney. Ashley's head snapped up. Elder abuse, Mom, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. What you did fits the legal definition perfectly. You used your position of trust to steal from an elderly person. That's textbook elder abuse. I'm your daughter, she said, tears streaming down her face. How can you do this to me? How can you send your own daughter to jail? I looked at her. This woman I'd given birth to, raised, loved unconditionally for 40 years. And I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. She'd burned all of that away when she decided I was worth less than money. I'm not sending you to jail, I said quietly. You sent yourself there the moment you forged my signature. I'm just making sure you get there. This is ridiculous, Kevin said, finding his voice again. You can't prove any of this. Can't I? I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved copies of everything. I have the forensic analysis showing 8 distinct differences between my real signature and the forged one. I have bank records showing unauthorized withdrawals. I have emails from 4 months ago where Ashley discussed selling my home. I have text messages where she asked a real estate agent about power of attorney sales. I have evidence of your gambling debts, your failed business, your tax fraud. I have everything, Kevin. Everything. The color drained from his face. Ashley was just sobbing now. Mom, please, think about your grandchildren. If we go to jail, what's going to happen to them? And there it was, the manipulation I knew was coming, using my grandkids as leverage, trying to make me feel guilty for making her face the music. You should have thought about your kids before you committed fraud. And I said, you should have thought about them before you decided to steal from their own grandmother. You made your choices, Ashley. You chose this. Now you have to live with it. We can pay you back. Kevin said, sounding desperate, we'll sell this house, we'll get jobs, we'll pay back every single penny. With what money? You've already burned through most of it. And even if you hadn't, this isn't about the money anymore. It's about trust. It's about family. It's about 2 people who looked at someone who loved them and just saw a piggy bank to smash open. I turned for the door. I was done with this conversation, done with their excuses, their fake tears, and their pathetic attempts to dodge responsibility. Wait, Ashley cried out. Mom, please, there has to be some way to fix this, some way to make it right. I stopped at the door and looked back at her. Oh, there was a way to make it right. It was called not doing it in the first place. It was called being honest. It was called treating your mother with respect, not like some AT you could hit up whenever you needed cash. So that's it, she asked. You're just going to destroy our family. I'm not destroying anything, I said. You 2 already did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I walked out and shut the door behind me. On the other side, I could hear Ashley sobbing and Kevin's angry voice. But I didn't go back. I didn't hesitate. I didn't second-guess myself. As I drove away from that house, I felt something settle deep inside me, a feeling that this was right, that it had to be done. Ashley had bet that I wouldn't fight back, that a mother's love would be stronger than justice, that I'd choose family peace over holding her accountable. She'd lost that bet. And on Monday, she was going to find out just how badly she'd lost. Monday morning was gray and cold. I stood on the courthouse steps clutching my purse and the folder with copies of all our evidence. David was right there with me, his briefcase in one hand and a coffee in the other. "Ready?" he asked. I just nodded. I'd been ready from the second I stood in my own driveway and realized what Ashley had done. The courthouse was a madhouse. People rushing everywhere, lawyers in expensive suits, families looking worried and lost, court officers directing traffic. I'd been in buildings like this 1,000 times as a paralegal, but it feels totally different when you're the one looking for justice. We went through security and made our way to the 3rd floor, to Judge Rebecca Anderson's courtroom. David told me she was fair but a real no-nonsense type. She didn't put up with games or manipulation. That was exactly what I needed. Ashley and Kevin weren't there yet. I was glad. I didn't want to see their faces until we had to in front of the judge. We sat on a bench outside the courtroom, and David looked over his notes one last time. "The emergency hearing should be pretty straightforward," he said. "We're asking the judge to freeze the property transfer and all their accounts until we get a full trial. With the evidence we have, I'm confident she'll grant it." "And then what?" I asked. "Then we wait for a trial date. Could be a few weeks, could be a few months. The courts are totally swamped, but this injunction will protect you for now. They won't be able to touch another cent, and the people in your penthouse will be told that ownership is in dispute." A few months. The idea of living in a hotel for that long made me sick, but what else could I do? "Mrs. Williams." I looked up. A young woman in a suit was standing there with a tablet. "I'm Nicole Foster, a victim advocate from the DA's office. Can I talk to you for a second?" David nodded, so I got up to follow her to a quiet corner. "I've been looking at your case," Nicole said softly. "The DA is really interested in pressing criminal charges against your daughter and son-in-law. We take elder abuse cases very seriously, but I have to ask you something important. Are you ready for what that means?" "What does it mean?" "It means this is bigger than just a civil case. Criminal charges could mean jail time for both of them. I need to be sure that you understand that and still want to go through with it." I thought about my grandkids, about Ashley's face, when she begged me to think of them. I thought about the family dinners we'd never have again, the life I always dreamed of with my daughter and her family. Then I thought about being locked out of my own home, about my forged signature the months they planned this, about $600,000 gone in 3 weeks. "Yes," I said. "I'm willing to do it." Nicole nodded. "Good. We'll work with your lawyer. Whatever happens here today will help our criminal case." She left and I went back to David just as Ashley and Kevin showed up with their lawyer. I'd never seen him before. He looked young, maybe 30, and had this arrogant walk that instantly annoyed me. Ashley wouldn't even look at me. She just stared at the floor, holding tight to Kevin's arm. But Kevin, he was staring right at me and he looked furious. Their lawyer walked up to David. "Morrison, I'm Keith Palmer. Look, I'm hoping we can settle this and not waste the court's time. Your client is clearly confused about how a power of attorney works. Maybe if we just sat down and explained it to her." "My client isn't confused about a thing," David said, his voice cold. "She's a victim of fraud and we have plenty of evidence to prove it." "Evidence you probably got by spying on them illegally," Palmer snapped back. "Any private investigation was totally legal and done by a licensed PI," David finished. "Nice try, though." The courtroom doors opened and a clerk called us in. "Case number 2025CV8847, Williams versus Williams and Sullivan." We all walked in and took our places. Ashley, Kevin, and their lawyer on one side and David and me on the other. The judge's bench was high above us, still empty for now. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Rebecca Anderson." Judge Anderson came in through a side door. She was a woman in her 60s with short gray hair and sharp eyes that didn't miss a thing. She sat down, adjusted her glasses, and opened the file in front of her. "This is a hearing for an emergency injunction," she said. "Mr. Morrison, you're representing the plaintiff." "Yes, Your Honor." "And Mr. Palmer, you're representing the defendants." "Correct, Your Honor." "Mr. Morrison, you may proceed." David got up and started laying out our case. He was sharp, laying it all out step by step. He showed them the analysis of the fake signature, the timeline of what happened, the proof that they planned it, the money they took out, Kevin's gambling debts, everything we'd found over the last week. Judge Anderson listened closely, taking notes here and there. She asked questions to make sure she understood just how much was on the line. When David was done, Palmer stood up to talk. "Your Honor, the defense's position is that Mrs. Ashley Williams was acting within her rights with the power of attorney. Her mother signed that paper on her own. The wording is broad enough to cover money decisions. There wasn't any fraud here. It's just a family argument over how much power she was given." "Mr. Palmer," the judge said, Are you really trying to argue that faking a signature is covered by a power of attorney? We don't agree that the signature was faked. Your Honor, Mrs. Catherine Williams is 72 years old. It's possible her signature just changed over the years as she got older. I felt my hands ball up into fists. He was calling me old and senile without actually saying the words. David stood up right away. Your Honor, we have a certified forensic document examiner who will testify that the signature is 100% a fake. We also have Mrs. Williams' doctor ready to testify that there's absolutely nothing wrong with her mind. She's sharp, she's all there, and she knows exactly what they did to her. Judge Anderson looked straight at me. Mrs. Williams, did you give them permission to sell your penthouse? I stood up. No, Your Honor. I didn't know anything about the sale until I got back from my trip and found strangers living in my home. Yes, and the power of attorney you signed, what did you think it was for? It was just for medical emergencies, Your Honor. I signed it before I had gallbladder surgery 2 years ago. My lawyer said it was a good idea, just in case. The judge turned back to Palmer. Mr. Palmer, do you have any proof that Mrs. Williams meant to give her daughter the power to sell her property? He fumbled with his papers. Not specific proof, Your Honor, but the power of attorney paper does give her broad financial power. For medical purposes, David cut in. The document says right there it's for medical decisions and the money stuff that goes with it, like hospital bills, not for selling property. Judge Anderson was quiet for a long time, reading the power of attorney paper herself. Finally, she looked up. I'm granting the emergency injunction. All bank accounts connected to the sale of this property are frozen effective immediately. The sale of the property is on hold until the trial. Or Palmer, your clients are not to get rid of any assets or make any big purchases without the court's permission. Is that clear? Your Honor, this is going to be really hard on my clients. They've got bills, they've got kids to support. They should have thought about that before they supposedly faked a signature and sold a property that wasn't theirs to sell. Plus, the judge snapped back. The injunction is final. We'll schedule the full hearing for She looked at her calendar. 6 weeks from today. That should give both sides plenty of time to get their cases ready. 6 weeks. That meant 6 more weeks in a hotel, and now 6 more weeks of just waiting. But at least it meant Ashley and Kevin couldn't get their hands on what was left of my money. They couldn't hide anything else, and they couldn't run. The court was adjourned. As we were leaving, Ashley finally looked right at me. Her eyes were all red, and her face was a mess. She looked like she was about to say something, but Kevin just yanked her away. Out in the hall, David shook my hand. That went just like we planned, he said. The judge saw right through their lies right away. 6 weeks, I said. That feels like forever. Use the time, David told me. Get some rest. You need your strength. We've got a strong case, but this trial is going to be tough. Ashley's lawyer will pull out all the stops. He'll try to make you look like you're just out for revenge or that you're confused. You've got to be ready. I just nodded. Suddenly, 6 weeks felt like way too long and not nearly long enough. The next few days were weird. I was just stuck, caught between my old life and the one I was fighting to get back. I mostly just stayed in my hotel room working with David to get ready for the trial. We went over what I was going to say, practiced answering questions, and looked at evidence until I knew it by heart. But at night, all alone in that plain hotel room, I'd start to worry. What if the next judge doesn't see it the same way? What if Palmer finds some sneaky loophole? What if I messed up and I'm about to lose it all for good? On nights like that, I'd get my phone out and just look at pictures of my penthouse, the view from the balcony, my little reading corner, the kitchen where I used to bake cookies for the grandkids, my home. It was my safe place, everything I'd worked my whole life for. And then I'd hear Ashley's voice in my head. Stop being so dramatic. The way she just brushed me off. She didn't feel bad at all. No, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't just trying to get even. I was fighting for what belonged to me. I was fighting for what was right. You can't just take things from people and expect to get away with it. 6 weeks went by so slowly. David would call with news. The PI found more evidence. The accountant tracked down more of the hidden money, and the DAC's office announced they were pressing criminal charges. Every update made our case stronger and made it feel like we were really going to win. But it also made the showdown feel bigger and bigger. Soon I'd be back in that courtroom, and this time, it wasn't going to be a quick hearing. This was the real trial, a day of reckoning. Ashley and Kevin were about to face the music, and I was ready for it. The morning of the trial, I woke up before the sun. The hotel room was dark and quiet, but I couldn't sleep. Today was the day, After 6 weeks of waiting, getting ready, and staring at the ceiling, wondering if things would really be made right, we were finally going to court. I got dressed carefully. I put on a navy suit I've had for years. It's professional, but not flashy. The pearl earrings Richard gave me for our 30th anniversary. Sensible shoes. I wanted the judge and the jury to see the real me, a capable, respectable woman who was taken advantage of, not some confused old lady who can't handle her own business. David picked me up at 8 o'clock. The trial was set for 9:30, but he wanted some extra time to go over everything. "How are you holding up?" he asked when I got in the car. "Nervous," I admitted. "What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing's going to go wrong," he said. "We've got the evidence. We've got witnesses. The truth's on our side." He looked at me. "Ashley's lawyer is going to try to get to you. He's going to imply you're getting forgetful, that you agreed to the sale and just don't remember. Don't let him get under your skin." I won't. But as we pulled into the courthouse parking lot, my stomach was just in knots. This was it. Everything I was fighting for all came down to what happened in that courtroom today. We went through security and up to Judge Anderson's courtroom. It was a lot more crowded this time. They'd already picked a jury. 12 people who were going to decide my fate. They sat in the jury box looking all serious and paying attention. Ashley and Kevin were already there with Palmer. Ashley looked way thinner than she did 6 weeks ago. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her clothes were just hanging off her. Kevin just looked mad. His jaw was tight. His eyes were hard. I sat down next to David and tried to calm my racing heart. "All rise." Judge Anderson walked in and took her seat. She looked over the courtroom with those sharp eyes of hers. Then she nodded to the bailiff. "This is the matter of Williams versus Williams and Sullivan. Opening statements. Mr. Morrison, you may proceed." David got up and faced the jury. His voice was clear and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about trust. It's about a daughter who took advantage of her own mother's love and trust to commit fraud. Catherine Williams worked her whole life to buy her home. She saved, she sacrificed. She earned that penthouse with decades of hard work. And while she was on vacation, her daughter forged her signature and sold it right out from under her. This isn't just some family argument. This is theft, and over the next few hours, we are going to prove that beyond any doubt." He sat down and then Palmer got up. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to hear is a tragedy, but not the one Mr. Morrison described. This is the tragedy of a family ripped apart by a misunderstanding. Ashley Williams acted in what she thought was her mother's best interest, using authority her mother had legally given her. Yes, the sale happened while Mrs. Williams was gone, but it was done to protect the family's assets during a financial emergency. This is a case about two different ways of reading a legal document, not fraud." I felt my jaw get tight. Different interpretations, as if forging my name was just a matter of opinion. "The plaintiff may call its first witness," Judge Anderson said. "The plaintiff calls Mrs. Catherine Williams to the stand." My legs were shaking as I stood up and walked to the witness box. The bailiff had me put my hand on a Bible and swear to tell the truth. As if I'd come all this way just to lie. David started with easy questions. My name, my age, how long I'd had the penthouse. He had me talk about my career to show everyone I was still sharp. Then he started asking about the vacation. "Mrs. Williams, when you left for Colorado, did you plan on selling your home?" "Not at all. I loved that home. I couldn't wait to get back to it." "And did you give your daughter permission to sell it while you were gone?" "Absolutely not. I had no idea she was even thinking about it." "What happened when you got back?" I told them the whole story. "Finding strangers at my door?" "The phone call with Ashley, how she didn't seem to care. How she just casually said she'd sold my home to pay off Kevin's debts. How did that make you feel, Betrayed?" I said, my voice low, devastated, like I'd lost everything. Like, David showed me the power of attorney paper. He asked, "Is this your signature?" I said, "Yes, I signed that before my gallbladder surgery 2 years ago." My lawyer said it was a good idea, just in case. He asked what I thought the paper, what that document allowed. It was for medical decisions, hospital bills, stuff like that. Only if I was out cold or couldn't speak for myself. Talk during surgery, Ashley could make the calls about my care. That's it. Then he asked if I ever talked about selling my property with Ashley. I said never. The thought didn't even cross my mind. David then showed me the sales papers. "Is this your signature?" And I looked at it hard, even though I'd seen it a million times. "No," I said. "That's not my signature. It looks like it, but it's not mine." "How can you tell?" he asked. "I've been writing my name the same way for 50 years. The flow's all wrong. The way the letters connect isn't right. Somebody copied my signature, but they couldn't get the feel of it. They had to think about every single line." David showed me the blown-up pictures from the forensic report, pointing out where it was different. The jury leaned in, really studying them. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. No further questions. Palmer got up and walked toward me with a fake sympathetic smile. Mrs. Williams, you're 72 years old, right? Yes. And at 72, would you say your memory's as sharp as it used to be? My memory is perfect, I said, looking him in the eye. I can tell you what I had for breakfast 6 weeks ago if you want. A few jurors smirked. Palmer's jaw clenched. You've testified that you never talked about selling the property, but isn't it possible you had a chat with your daughter about it and just forgot? No, I would remember talking about selling my home. He pressed on. Mrs. Williams, isn't it true you've been having money problems lately? That keeping up. The penthouse was getting too hard. That's a complete lie. My finances were great. I had savings. A pension and rent money coming in from another property I own. Palmer looked stunned. He clearly had no idea about the rental property. Your daughter has said that you complained about the upkeep costs of the penthouse, that you'd even mentioned downsizing. I said, I never said anything like that. So your daughter is lying? Yes, I said, staring right at him. She's lying. Just like she lied when she forged my name. Just like she lied to the real estate agent. And just like she lied to the couple who bought my home. He said, you sound very angry with your daughter. Wouldn't you be? Angry if your own kid stole from you. Objection, David yelled out. Argumentative. Sustained, Judge Anderson said. Mr. Palmer, move on. Palmer tried a couple more questions, but I didn't budge. Finally, he let me go and I went back to my seat. David called Stephen Brooks the handwriting expert. Stephen was fantastic on the stand, explaining in simple terms how signatures work, how your muscles remember the moves, and how the signature on the sales papers was absolutely not mine. Palmer tried to trip him up, but Stephen had been doing this for decades, and his credentials were rock solid. The jury looked like they believed him. Next up was Rebecca Parker, the private investigator. She laid out everything she dug up. Kevin's gambling debts, the casino accounts, the secret loans, the cooked business books, the offshore account Ashley had opened. With every new piece of evidence I just watched. You could see the jury's faces change, first blank, then shocked, then just plain disgusted. Palmer tried to object, saying the whole thing was an invasion of privacy, but Judge Anderson shot him down. Her money problems were directly tied to the motive. Objection. Overruled. Finally, David called my doctor, who swore that I was in perfect health, both in body and mind. No mental slipping, no memory problems, sharp as anyone half my age. When David rested our case, I felt a little flicker of hope. The evidence was just so strong. The jury had to see the truth. Then Palmer called Ashley to the stand. She walked up so slowly, trying to look small and scared. She took the oath and sat down, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Mrs. Sullivan, why did you sell your mother's penthouse? We were desperate. Ashley said, her voice cracking. Kevin lost his business. We had collectors calling all the time. I was so scared we'd lose our house that our kids would be on the street. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone. Did you plan on cheating your mother? No, never. I thought the power of attorney gave me the right. I really thought I was helping. Did you forge your mother's signature? No, I signed it. But I believed I had the legal right to sign for her with the power of attorney. I watched the jury. Some of them looked like they felt sorry for her, but others were skeptical. This was the scary part. If they believed her tears, if they believed she was just a desperate mom who screwed up, we could lose everything. David stood up to cross-examine. He looked serious, but he wasn't aggressive. Mrs. Sullivan, you testified you believed the power of attorney let you sell the property. Did you talk to a lawyer before you did it? Yes, Kevin's friend looked over the papers. And is this friend a specialist in elder law or power of attorney? I don't know. Did you talk to your mother's lawyer? Mr. Morrison, the man who actually wrote the document. No. Why not? Ashley went quiet. Mrs. Sullivan? I'll ask you again. Why didn't you talk to the lawyer who created the document, the one person who'd know what it was for? I didn't think I needed to. David then showed her emails from 4 months before the sale. These are emails where you're talking about your mother's penthouse value and looking up how to sell a property when the owner is gone. You sent these 4 months before the sale. Does that sound like a desperate last-minute decision? Ashley hesitated, her face turning red. I was just looking at options. Looking at options 4 months in advance, David repeated. And these text messages to a real estate agent 6 weeks before your mother even went on vacation, asking about power of attorney sales. Was that also just looking at options? Yes. And what about this purchase tracing paper? High-end pens and a book on authenticating documents. What were those for? Objection, Palmer yelled out. Speculation. Your Honor. These are things the defendant bought that are directly related to the forgery. David said. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mrs. Sullivan. Ashley's hands were shaking now. I don't remember buying those things. We have your credit card statements right here, David said, holding up the papers. March 15th, ordered from a website shipped to your house. You don't remember? Maybe. Kevin used your card to order them, and you had no idea. David's tone made it sound completely ridiculous. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm going to ask you straight. Did you forge your mother's signature on those sales papers? No? Did you sign her name? Ashley was quiet for a long time. I signed as her representative with power of attorney. That's not what I asked. Did you write out the name Catherine Williams, trying to make it look like your mother's signature? Another long pause. Yes, but I had the authority. You had the authority to forge her signature. David asked, his voice flat. Let me ask you this. When did you tell your mother about the sale? Lissa. I tried to tell her before her trip, but it wasn't the right time. So you just waited until she came home and found strangers living in her house. I didn't know how to bring it up. You didn't know how to bring up that you'd sold her home? David let that sink in. And when she called you upset and confused, what did you tell her? I tried to explain. Phone records say that call lasted 4 minutes before you hung up on her. So that what you call explaining? Ashley looked down at her hands. One more question, David said. After the sale, you opened an account in the Cayman Islands and moved $60,000 into it. Why? That was for our children's future. Or was it? Because you knew you'd broken the law and wanted to hide the money before you got caught. Objection, Palmer yelled, standing up. He's badgering her. Withdrawn, David said. No further questions. Ashley practically fled from the witness stand. She looked smaller somehow, just defeated. That confident mask she'd been wearing was completely shattered. Kevin was up next. He tried to act all tough, but his story completely fell apart once David started questioning him. Yes, he had gambling debts. Yes, he'd hidden just how bad his money problems were from Ashley's family. And yes, he'd been the one who suggested they use the power of attorney to sell the penthouse. So this was your idea, David asked. We discussed it together, Kevin said, choosing his words carefully. But you brought it up first. I suggested we look at all our options. Options like forging your mother-in-law's signature and stealing her home. We didn't steal anything. David just let that statement hang there, the disbelief clear on his face. When both sides were done, Judge Anderson gave his instructions to the jury. They filed out to decide, and we were left to wait. An hour passed, then 2. David told me this was normal, that it was a good sign they were being careful. But every minute felt like it was dragging on forever. Finally, after 3 hours, the bailiff came out. The jury has reached a verdict. We all filed back into the courtroom. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. 12 strangers were about to decide if I was going to get justice or if Ashley was going to get away with what she did. The jury foreman, a middle-aged guy in a button-down, stood up when the judge asked if they'd reached a verdict. We have your honor. On the matter of fraud, how do you find? We find in favor of the plaintiff, Catherine Williams. I felt my breath catch in my throat. On the matter of elder abuse, how do you find? We find in favor of the plaintiff. And on the matter of forgery and misuse of power of attorney, how do you find? We find in favor of the plaintiff. The whole courtroom felt like it was spinning. David's hand was on my shoulder, holding me steady. I'd won. I won on every single count. Judge Anderson then turned to Ashley and Kevin. This court finds that you, Ashley Williams Sullivan and Kevin Sullivan, acted knowingly and willfully when you defrauded Catherine Williams through forgery, misuse of legal documents, and elder abuse. The sale of the property at 1847 Riverside Drive, Unit 15G, is officially null and void. The property must be returned to Mrs. Catherine Williams immediately. Ashley was openly sobbing now. Kevin just sat there stiff as a board, his face white. And on top of that, the judge continued, you are ordered to return all the money left from the fraudulent sale, The court calculates damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and loss of property use at $120,000 to be paid to Mrs. Williams within 60 days. She paused, staring right at Ashley and Kevin. I want to be very clear about something. What you did wasn't just against the law. It was just plain wrong. You targeted a vulnerable family member, someone who trusted you, and you used that trust just to get money. This court has seen a lot of cases, but not many as cold and calculating as this one. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashley's sobs echoed through the courtroom. This court is adjourned. Then to me, Mrs. Williams, you'll get the paperwork on reclaiming your property within 48 hours. As the gavel banged down, I just sat there frozen. It was over, after weeks of fighting, of digging for evidence, of sleepless nights, wondering if we'd ever get justice. It was finally over. David was talking to me, telling me the next steps, but I could barely hear him. All I could think about was going home, my real home, to my penthouse, my safe place. As we stood up to leave, Ashley came over. Her face was a mess from crying, her eyes all red and puffy. Mom, she croaked, her voice hoarse. Mom, please, can we talk? I just looked at her, this person who had been my baby girl, who I rocked to sleep and comforted after nightmares, who I taught to ride a bike and helped with her homework, who I loved with everything I had for 40 years. And I felt nothing but disappointment. There's nothing to talk about, I said quietly. Please, I made a mistake. I know that now. I was desperate and scared, and I made horrible choices. But I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything? You stopped being my daughter the second you decided I was worth less than money. You had a choice, Ashley. You could have asked for help. You could have just been honest with me. Instead, you chose to stab me in the back in the worst way possible. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I don't believe you, I said. I think you're sorry you got caught. Sorry you have to face this now. But I don't think you're really sorry for what you did to me. If you were, you would have confessed the moment I called you. You would have tried to make it right. Instead, you hung up on me and called me dramatic. Ashley had nothing to say to that. Goodbye, Ashley, I said. I hope one day you understand what you threw away. I turned and walked away, and this time I didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, David shook my hand. Congratulations, Catherine. You did it. We did it, I corrected him. I couldn't have done this without you. So what will you do now? I thought about that. What would I do now? I'd spent 6 weeks in hell fighting for this. Now that I had it, what came next? I'm going to go home, I said. I told myself I'm taking my life back and I'm moving on. Then I looked back at the courthouse. Ashley and Kevin were walking out with their lawyer. They looked crushed, totally broken, and a tiny part of me felt bad for them. But mostly I just felt relieved. I felt like justice was served and I was free. Ashley made her bed, I thought. Now she has to lie in it. The couple living in my penthouse was gone within 48 hours of the judge's order. David handled all the details, working with their lawyer to make sure everything went off without a hitch. They were obviously upset. I mean, they'd bought the place honestly, thinking they were starting a whole new life. Now they were right back at square one. They got their deposit back, but their dreams were a mess. I felt sorry for them. They were victims here, too, caught in the middle of Ashley's mess. David told me they were going to sue Ashley and Kevin to get their money back. Good. Maybe that'll really teach them a lesson. On a Thursday morning, exactly 7 weeks after I got back from Colorado and found strangers at my door, I stood right in front of that same door with my key in my hand. The key that actually worked, now the lock that knew it was me again. I turned the key and pushed open the door. The penthouse was totally empty. The couple took all their furniture when they left. The walls were bare where their family pictures used to hang, but it was my place again, all mine. I walked through every room. Slowly just soaking it all in. The living room with those huge floor-to-ceiling windows I loved. The kitchen where I'd baked so many cookies for my grandkids. That little reading spot by the fireplace. The master bedroom where I slept next to Richard for 15 years before he passed away. Everything looked the same, but it all felt different. The whole place had a different vibe now. It felt tainted, not by the innocent couple who'd lived there for a bit, but by the betrayal that stole it from me in the first place. I stood on the balcony just looking out at the city. The view hadn't changed. The buildings, the river way out there, the way the afternoon sun hit the glass towers downtown. It was all exactly how I remembered it. But I had changed. 7 weeks ago, I was a trusting mom, someone who believed the best in people, especially her own family. Someone who figured that love and sacrifice would be paid back. But now, I was someone else. Harder maybe, definitely more cautious, but stronger too. I'd fought for what belonged to me, and I won. I stood up to people who tried to use me and proved I wasn't a pushover. The hurt was still there, though deep and aching. Winning in court didn't just make the betrayal disappear. Every time I thought about Ashley planning this for months, looking up how to steal from me, faking my signature, I felt that wound open all over again. But besides the hurt, there was something else. Pride, satisfaction, knowing I'd done the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing to do, even when it meant destroying my relationship with my daughter. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Mrs. Williams?" a young woman's voice asked. She sounded professional. "This is Sarah from Riverside Property Management. We just wanted to let you know that your furniture has been moved out of storage and it's being delivered tomorrow morning. Will you be there to get it?" Furniture. With everything going on, I'd totally forgotten Ashley put my stuff in storage after she sold the place. At least she didn't sell that too. "Yeah," I said. "I'll be here." "Great. The delivery window is between 9 and noon. Anything else you need?" "Nope, that's it, thanks." I hung up and glanced around the empty penthouse. Tomorrow it'd start feeling like home again. My couch, my bed, my dishes, my books. All the little things that make a place a home. The moving truck showed up at 9:15 the next morning. The movers were quick and careful, putting everything right where I told them. By noon, my penthouse looked almost normal. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was close enough that I could finally breathe a little. I spent the whole afternoon unpacking, putting away dishes, hanging pictures on the walls. Just small, normal things that felt like a huge deal. Every single thing I put away was me saying, "I'm home, I'm staying, and no one is taking this from me again." That night I was sitting in my reading corner with some tea when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ashley. I almost hit delete right then. I didn't want to hear from her. I didn't want her apologies or excuses. But I was curious, so I opened it. It said, "Mom, I know you don't want to hear from me, and I get it. But I just need you to know I realize what I did was awful. It wasn't just illegal. It was just plain wrong. I betrayed you in the worst way, and now I've lost everything. Kevin and I are getting a divorce. I have to move in with a friend because I can't afford our house. The kids are barely talking to me because they're so ashamed of me. But the worst part of all this is knowing I destroyed things with you. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. I get what I took from you, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I read that text 3 times looking for the catch for the guilt trip. For some way she was trying to blame me for her mess, but it wasn't there. The text was simple. It was direct and honest. She wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't trying to worm her way back into my life. Just owning up to what she did and taking what was coming to her. I put my phone down and just stared out the window. A part of me wanted to text back to say something, anything, to try and fix the huge mess between us. She's still my daughter no matter what she did. That connection doesn't just vanish. But another part of me, the part that was so hurt and betrayed, just wasn't ready. And maybe it never would be. I didn't answer the text. Not that night. I needed time to think, to figure out what I even wanted to say, if anything. The next few days, I started settling back in. I got into a new routine, having coffee on the balcony in the morning, taking walks at night. Slowly, the penthouse started to feel like it was mine again. Miss Reynolds came by with a casserole and a big hug. "So glad you're home, dear," she said. "The building just wasn't the same without you." Catherine from my book club stopped by with flowers to catch me up on all the gossip. We sat in my living room, drank tea, and talked about everything but the trial. It was just what I needed. But at night, when the city got quiet and alone with my thoughts, it really hit me what I'd lost. Not the penthouse, I got that back, but Ashley, my grandkids, the family I thought I had. I won in court, I got justice. But justice doesn't fill that empty chair at my table where Ashley always sat. It doesn't bring back the Sunday phone calls. It doesn't change the fact that the person I loved most in the world saw me as nothing but a walking atom. About a week after I moved back in, Ashley texted me again. "I'm in therapy, trying to figure out why I made such awful choices. The therapist says I have to take full responsibility and stop blaming my situation. You were right about everything. I was selfish. I was cruel. I chose money over the person who gave me everything. I don't expect you to care, but I thought you should know I'm trying to be a better person. Not for you. I know I can never make this right with you. It's for my kids so they don't grow up thinking this kind of behavior is okay." I read her message sitting in my reading chair, the same spot where I'd spent so many peaceful nights before this whole mess. So Ashley was in therapy. Good, she needed it. But did that change a single thing for me? Did her trying to get better erase what she'd done? No, it didn't, but maybe someday. It could be a start. I'm not talking about getting back together. I don't know if I could ever trust her again, but maybe, eventually, we could find some kind of peace. That night, for the first time since I got back from Colorado, I slept. I mean, I really slept. The kind of deep, dreamless sleep you get when you're finally safe in your own place. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was pouring through my bedroom window. I just lay there for a second, listening to the familiar sounds of the building pipes, humming voices in the distance, the elevator ding. I was home. Really and truly home. The fight wasn't completely over, though. Ashley and Kevin were still facing criminal charges. There would be more court dates, more testimony, more reminders of their betrayal. But the worst of it was behind me. I had my home back. I had my dignity back. I'd proven that I wouldn't be walked all over. As I was making coffee in my kitchen, I thought about what David asked me outside the courthouse. What was I going to do now I'd reclaim my life? I told him. And I meant it. But what did that really look like? Was I just supposed to go back to how things were? Pretend none of this happened. No, I couldn't do that. This whole thing changed me. I saw the world differently now. I saw people differently. I even saw myself differently. I was stronger than I ever knew. Tougher. And more willing to fight for what's right even when it's hard. That was worth something. That was worth a whole lot, actually. Ashley sent one more text that week. I heard the DA is moving forward with the charges. I'm not going to fight it. Whatever sentence I get, I deserve it. I just wanted you to know that. I stared at that message for a long time. Then for the first time since this nightmare began, I typed a reply. I hope you find peace, Ashley. I really do. But that peace has to come from inside you, not from me. Take care of yourself. Take care of your children. And learn from this. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. About 30 seconds later, a text came through. Thanks, Mom. It's more than I deserve. And that was it. No more texts. No more trying to reach out. Just her quietly accepting what she'd done in this tiny, fragile connection between us that might lead somewhere someday, or it might not. And I was okay with that, too. I finished my coffee and stepped out on the balcony. The morning air was cool and fresh. The city was just waking up. Life was going on just like it always does. And I was going on with it. I was changed, yeah, scarred for sure. But I was still here, still standing, still me. That was enough for now. It was more than enough. 3 months after the trial, I was in line at the grocery store when I saw them. My grandkids, Olivia, who was 12 now, and Ethan, who'd just turned 9. They were with some woman I didn't recognize. Probably the friend Ashley said she was moving in with. Olivia saw me first. Her eyes got wide, and for a second, I thought she was going to pretend she didn't see me. But then she tugged on Ethan's sleeve and whispered something. He looked over and his whole face just lit up the way it used to when I'd show up with cookies. Grandma? Ethan started to walk toward me, but Olivia grabbed his arm and held him back. She looked so unsure, like she didn't know if it was okay to come over to me, so I made the decision for them. I stepped out of line and walked over. Hello, sweethearts, I said to Olivia, then to Ethan. You've gotten so tall. I'm almost as tall as Mom now, he said proudly. Then his face kind of fell like he remembered that bringing up his mom might be a bad idea. The woman with them introduced herself. I'm Rachel, Ashley's friend. I'm sorry I didn't realize. Ashley didn't mention you. Might be around. It's fine, I said. It's really good to see them. Olivia was just staring at the floor, looking all torn up. She was old enough to get what had happened, at least the basics. Old enough to feel the weight of our family falling apart. How's school? I asked her gently. Okay, she mumbled. Then she looked right up at me with those serious eyes, the ones that reminded me so much of Ashley at her age. She asked, Are you mad at us? My heart just cracked a little. Oh, honey, no, I'm not mad at you, not one bit. What happened between your mom and me, that's adult stuff. It has nothing to do with you and Ethan. Mom cries a lot now, Ethan just blurted out. She says she did something really bad to you. Oh, Rachel looked really uncomfortable. Kids, maybe we should... It's all right, I said. I crouched down so I was at Ethan's level. Your mom made some mistakes, big ones, but that doesn't make her a bad person. It just means she has to learn and grow, and it never ever means I stopped caring about you two. Can we still visit you sometimes? Olivia asked, her voice full of hope. Like we used to. I paused. The practical part of me knew that if I wanted a relationship with my grandkids, I'd have to have some contact with Ashley. And that meant I could be opening myself up to get hurt again. But looking at their faces, I just couldn't say no. I'd like that, I said, if your mom is okay with it. Really? Ethan's face broke into a huge grin. We swapped numbers with Rachel, and she promised she'd talk to Ashley about setting up a visit. As they walked away, Olivia looked back once and gave a little wave. I waved back, feeling something shift inside me. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly, but it felt like the beginning of something that could be. And it did. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anybody. When I checked the little video screen, I saw Ashley standing there all alone. She looked so nervous, just shifting from one foot to the other. I almost didn't open up, but I guess I had to know. I unlocked it but kept the chain on, cracking it open just enough to see her. "Mom," she said, "I'm so sorry for just showing up. I know I should have called first, but I've got something for you, and I wanted to give it to you myself." She held up a small box wrapped in plain brown paper. "You don't need to give me anything," I told her. "I know, but please just take it. I'm not asking to come in. I'm not asking for anything, just please take this." I knew I shouldn't, but I undid the chain and opened the door a little more. Ashley handed me the box. She looked thinner than the last time I saw her in court. So tired. I saw some gray in her hair that wasn't there before. "I'm not staying," she said really fast. "I just wanted you to have this, and to tell you, Olivia and Ethan asked if they could visit you. If you're up for it, I'd like for that to happen, not because I'm trying to worm my way back in, but because they miss you. And you were always a great grandma. They shouldn't have to lose that because of what I did." I held the box, but I didn't open it. I ran into them at the grocery store. They seem like they're doing all right. "They're tough kids," Ashley said. "Tougher than I am, apparently." She tried to smile, but it was all shaky. "I've been going to therapy twice a week, working through a lot of stuff trying to figure out why I made the choices I did. Not to make excuses for them, just to understand so I don't do it again." "That's good," I said, and I meant it. "The criminal trial is next month," she said quietly. "My lawyer thinks I'll get 18 months, probably serve 9 with good behavior." I'm scared, but in a weird way I'm also relieved, like I need to pay for this before I can really move on. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me still wanted her to hurt for what she did. But the other part of me, the mom part that never really goes away, it just ached for her. "I should go," Ashley said. "Thank you for talking to me. And for even thinking about letting the kids visit. It means more than you'll ever know." She turned to go, then stopped. "Mom, I know I've said this, but I have to say it again. I'm sorry, not because I got caught, not because I'm in trouble, but because I hurt you, because I broke your trust, because I treated you like you were nothing. You deserved so much more from me." Her voice cracked on those last few words. She didn't wait for me to answer. She just walked toward the elevator. I shut the door and just stood there for a second, holding the box. Then I went to the living room and sat down to open it. Inside was a photo album, an old one with a worn leather cover. I knew it right away. It was the album my own mother kept full of pictures from my childhood. I'd given it to Ashley years ago, thinking she could show her own kids where their family came from. I opened it carefully. Photos of me as a little girl, my parents who are long gone, my grandparents' family get-togethers from 60 years ago. And tucked into the front cover was a note in Ashley's handwriting. "Mom, I found this when I was packing up the house. I wanted you to have it back. Not because I don't want it, but because it belongs with you. This is where you came from, your history, the start of everything you built. I took so much from you. I can't give it all back, but I can give you this. Love, Ashley." I just sat there with the album on my lap, staring at a picture of me at 5 years old, standing between my parents in front of our little apartment. We didn't have much back then, but we had each other. We had love. We had trust. That little girl in the photo grew up believing that if you worked hard and were honest and treated people right, you'd get it back. That family meant something, that trust was everything. What Ashley did had shaken all of that. It made me question everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. But sitting there with that album, with hard proof of where I'd come from and what I'd survived, I realized something. Ashley's betrayal didn't destroy me. It hurt me, yeah. It absolutely changed me. But I was still here, still standing. I'm still the same person deep down who built a life out of nothing, and maybe, just maybe, there was room in my life for setting boundaries, but also for connecting, for holding people accountable, but also for showing mercy, for protecting myself, but also leaving the door open, just a crack, for the chance to heal. I wasn't ready to forgive Ashley completely. I might never be, but I could accept her apology. I could let my grandkids back into my life. I could admit she was trying to be better, even if that didn't just wipe away what she'd done. That evening, I called Rachel and arranged for Olivia and Ethan to visit next weekend. Then I sent Ashley a text. It was short, but I meant it. "Thank you for the album. It means a lot. The kids can visit Saturday at 10. Her reply came right away. "Thank you, Mom. Really thank you." I put the phone down and looked around my penthouse, my home that I'd fought so hard for and won back. It wasn't just a place anymore. It was a symbol, a reminder that I was stronger than I knew, that I could face a betrayal like that and still be okay. Getting justice had cost me my relationship with my daughter, at least for now. It cost me my idea that family loyalty was a given. It cost me my innocence, my trust, my belief that love was always enough. But it had given me something too. Dignity, self-respect, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself when it really mattered. The proof that your actions have consequences even for people you love. And maybe if we were both willing to do the work, it had given Ashley and me a chance at something new. Not what we had before that was gone forever, but maybe something more honest, more real, built on the truth instead of just feelings. I didn't know if that would happen. I couldn't guarantee it, but for the first time since I came home from Colorado all those months ago, I felt like it was possible. And possibility, I was learning, was sometimes enough. Saturday morning came with sunshine streaming through my balcony windows. I'd been up since 6 cleaning the penthouse and getting ready for Olivia and Ethan's visit. I had their favorite cookies in the oven. Hot chocolate was ready to be made. I pulled out board games from the closet where they'd sat unused for months. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw both kids standing there with Rachel was here. Olivia looked a little nervous, but Ethan was just bouncing on his toes, all excited. "Come on in," I said, and stepped aside. Ethan just flew past me right into the living room. "Hey, everything looks the same?" "Well, mostly." "Is that a new lamp?" "Same lamp." I laughed. "I just moved it." Olivia came in a lot slower, just taking it all in. She went over to the balcony doors and just stared out at the view. "I miss this place," she said real quiet. "I used to love coming over." "You can come over any time," I told her. "That hasn't changed." Rachel was still hanging back by the door. "I can come back in a few hours, maybe around 1 o'clock. "That works perfectly." After she left, I just spent the morning with my grandkids, just like old times. We played some games, we talked about school, their friends, their favorite shows. Ethan told me these long stories about his soccer team. Olivia showed me pictures on her phone of an art project she was working on. It felt so normal, almost like it used to be. But we all knew it wasn't really the same. There was this feeling, a carefulness to how we talked. Some things we just didn't bring up. Ashley's name only came up once, when Ethan asked if I thought his mom was going to be okay. "Yes," I told him, and I meant it. "I think she will be. It just might take some time. But your mom is strong. She'll get through it." "Are you still mad at her?" Olivia asked, looking right at me. I had to think about that. Was I still mad? Yeah, a part of me was. The betrayal. It still stung. The hurt wasn't completely gone. But that burning anger had cooled down into something else, something more like sadness and disappointment. "I'm working on it," I said. "It's a process, but I'm getting there." Olivia seemed okay with that answer. When Rachel came to get them at 1 o'clock, Ethan gave me a huge hug. "Can we come back next weekend?" "We'll see," I said. But I'd really like that. After they were gone, I stood on my balcony and just looked out at the city. 4 months ago, I came back from vacation and my whole life was turned upside down. 4 months ago, I felt so helpless, betrayed, and lost. Now, standing in the home I fought for and won back, I felt different. The whole thing stripped something away from me, something I'd carried my whole life. This idea that just being kind and trusting was enough, that love could fix anything, that your own family would never really truly hurt you. Well, those ideas were gone, and what was left was something harder, but also more honest. I understood now that you have to earn trust and you have to protect it, that love without any boundaries is dangerous, and that being family doesn't give you a free pass to act horribly. It was a hard lesson, but one I needed to learn. I thought about who I was before all this, before Colorado. That woman would have forgiven Ashley right away. She would have told herself that keeping the peace was more important than what was right. She would have just swallowed the hurt to avoid a fight. That woman is gone. Now there's someone who knows her own worth, someone who won't let people treat her like she's less than, who understands that making people face what they did isn't cruel, it's necessary. I like this new version of myself a lot better. Over the next few weeks, things started to settle down. Olivia and Ethan visited every other weekend. I joined a new book club. I made friends there who didn't know anything about all my family drama. I started taking painting classes, which is something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time. And I started looking forward, not back. So Ashley's trial was in early December. She pleaded guilty to everything. The judge gave her 15 months and she could be out on parole after 8. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was more than enough to send a message. When I heard, I felt so many different things. I was relieved it was finally over, but sad it had to end this way. And a small part of me hoped this would be the wake-up call Ashley needed to really change. She sent me one last letter before she went to serve her time. Mom, I'm about to start paying for what I did, but I know I can never really pay you back. You gave me life, you raised me, you supported me, you loved me. And I threw it all away for money. There's no excuse for that. I was wrong and I'm so sorry. I hope that someday, years from now, my actions can show you that I've learned from this, that I've become someone who deserves to be called your daughter again. Until then, thank you for letting Olivia and Ethan see you. Thank you for not making them pay for my mistakes. You've always been a better person than I deserved. With love and regret, Ashley. I read that letter 3 times, then just stuck it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to write back. I might never be, but I kept it. Maybe someday it'll be a reminder of how bad things got and how far we came. Christmas was coming up, and for the first time in years I wasn't dreading it. I had Olivia and Ethan over for Christmas Eve. We decorated cookies, watched old movies, and opened presents by the fire. It was so different from the big family parties we used to have, but it was good. It was real. As the new year came, I started thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the fight winning, and the slow, hard work of rebuilding. A year ago, if you'd told me my own daughter would try to steal my house and I'd have to take her to court, I would have said you were crazy. I couldn't even imagine it. But it happened and I got through it. I did more than just get through it. I beat it. I learned I was a lot stronger than I thought, that I could face the worst kind of betrayal and still be okay. And that justice, even though it's hard and painful, was worth fighting for. I also learned that life doesn't always give you the ending you want. Sometimes the people you love the most let you down in ways you never thought possible. Sometimes relationships break and they can't be fixed all the way. And sometimes standing up for yourself means you end up alone. But I'd rather be alone with my head held high than be around people who don't respect me. So as I stood on my balcony on New Year's Day, watching the sunrise, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the clueless kind of peace, but the kind you earn. The kind someone gets after they've been through hell and come out stronger. I thought about what was next. More art classes, maybe some traveling, maybe I'd volunteer at a legal aid clinic, helping other older folks who'd been taken advantage of. Using what happened to me to protect others from going through the same thing. The future was right there in front of me, full of possibilities. It wasn't the future I'd pictured a year ago, but it was a future. And you know what? I was ready for it. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to my story. If you've stuck with me this long, I'd really love to hear what you think. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace in your family and standing up for yourself? How'd you deal with it? Drop your story in the comments, and if this story hit home for you, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more real-life stories. Remember, it's not selfish to stand up for yourself. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, and sometimes the most caring thing you can do is make people answer for what they've done. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it. And now, at 72 years old, I'm finally living life my way in my own home with my head held high. That penthouse Ashley tried to sell wasn't just a place to live. It was everything I'd ever worked for. Everything I'd given up things for. It was my entire life. And when she tried to steal that, she learned something real important. You don't mess with a woman who has fought for everything she owns because she will fight back.